Ēriks Ešenvalds, thank you so much for being here. For our patrons that are tuning in, they know you because I started counting up the number of pieces I've done by you, and I stopped counting it at 20. And that includes some bigger pieces, you know, Trinity Te Deum, the In Paradisum, the Sing unto the Lord, which I'm not going to try to say in your language. But I love your music. I know that makes me sound just like a geek, but I just want to lead with that because what a blessing you are to the world.
Oh, thank you. Glad to be helpful. You know, when we find our call in life, our profession, you know, then when we are happy and we go that path, we walk that path, and with all energy, with all tears and joy and emotional palette, and of course also the professional methods and compositional techniques. And yeah, so I found my call in life at age 18, 19 only, when I started to study composition professionally. But before that, music was only a hobby.
Right.
So oh, I didn't know that you have performed so many works of mine.
I love your music, but to me, when I play a piece of yours, I feel how much you want to communicate to the audience. And that feels very natural, like all composers should feel that way, but they don't. You can tell. Sometimes they've got something, a way they like to say things, and they're not thinking about the audience. And I feel that you always are.
Oh, thank you. Oh, thanks God you are of those conductors who can see what's behind the sheet music. You know,
Right.
we composers, we cannot put all the information, what we have had in mind when we compose. We cannot put all the information on the paper. But if we start to put every detail, then the music starts to look silly.
Right.
So we just hope that the conductors and the performers will enjoy the music with rich emotional palette. Yeah.
I think so. I am right with you in the purpose of music is to create these strong emotions, and it's so powerful. And we're so fortunate. You said you found your calling. Both of us have been fortunate to be able to do what we do. You know, if we had lived 500 years ago, maybe we wouldn't get to do it. So many things, the stars in alignment.
Yeah, here we are. And we do what we do.
Well, and thank goodness, because it does make a difference. I especially now, ironically, when we're not doing it, I get so many emails from people saying, boy, I miss, from the singers, they miss singing and that creative experience, and audience members who say, I'm really grieving not to be able to hear live music.
Yeah, it's unbelievable that this virus crisis has stopped the whole world.
Yeah.
I could imagine it would be economical crisis or other crisis, but not a single virus. It's very strange, but step by step, day by day, week by week, we hope that the world will be healed and we come back to our daily rehearsals, our daily jobs, and yeah, our prayers and fingers crossed, everything for peace to come back to the world.
Your family as well?
Yes, thank you. We are well. I teach. In spring semester I I'm a professor at Music Academy. I teach my students. So since March, it was all on remote teaching. Completely new experience to me and to my students. Our three oldest kids, they go to school, and they also stayed home for the last March, April, May. Yeah, remote teaching. We are well, and Latvia is just 2 million people, but and today we had yesterday we had 18 single new infected people. Day before that we had 3. So for the last 2 months we are dealing from 0 to 18. So kind of very low percentage of people get infected.
I teach here at Southern Oregon University, and we were all online spring term as well. And I don't know about you, but I've never worked so hard in my life. And I'm a hard worker, but it was there for me also. I'd never done an online class, and just I think everyone found it really hard. Was that your experience?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. It's very easy to sit with students in a classroom and to have conversation, a physical conversation on a spot. The things just would move fast
Right.
forward, while in remote teaching, a lot of writing, a lot of reading, the time just doubled or tripled, you know. Oh.
And that interaction and feeling, because you're a performer, you know, we live off the feeling of the audience and the people around us, and you don't get that even if you make a time and say, does anyone have any questions? No one wants to say anything because it feels so artificial, where in the classroom they would just speak up.
Yeah, yeah. Extraordinary experience, new experience. But I think everyone is longing for meeting in classroom, meeting in rehearsals, and yeah. So let's hope that that day is coming.
So you started in music. I read playing around with music and writing little pop songs like Whitney Houston, was it?
Oh yeah, yeah. Whitney Houston was my first teacher. in remote style. I was 10 years old, and I every afternoon I went to children music school where I studied solfeggio. I sang in choir, and my main specialty was piano playing, and that was Soviet time. And Whitney Houston, we saw her on TV. We could buy her audio cassettes, but we couldn't buy her the sheet music of her beautiful songs. So since I was a very good piano player, I learned her songs to play on the piano just by ear. And then there was one evening choir class. So I was still age 10, and 5-minute break, and I was in a joyous mood, and I just grabbed my empty sheet music page, and I wrote some notes, and then instead of lyrics I wrote some la 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 la, and an older class singer, she saw what I had just sketched on my music paper, and she said, you show it to the conductor. And I did it, and the conductor played it. It didn't sound nice, but she said to me, Ēriks, maybe you should compose. You know, I had never thought about that. Compose, and, you know, and this all happens in 5 minutes, in the 5-minute break.
Wow.
And I, after the choir class, I went home that night, and I sat at my piano, and I thought, how is it to compose? And I played Whitney Houston's songs, and I started to write something similar to her songs. First surprise was that her songs consisted of just 5-6 different chords, not more.
Sure.
It was just F, B flat, GM7, C, and that's all. Like so, it was quite easy. Okay, I started to write my own tunes using Whitney's songs chords, but changing their order. Yeah, and that was the very, very beginning how I started to compose.
That's a
Yeah.
great story. Well, something, and now your music doesn't sound like Whitney Houston, but you're not afraid of popular styles, and you love folk music, obviously, which I do too. I think today there's such a, and I'd love to see what you feel, but I think there's such a marriage between the pop and classical worlds. I hate those words because we're learning from one another, and the old school of, if people like your music, it's bad music, that started with the Romantics, really. The avant-garde and trying to be weird, just, it feels like just to alienate people. And why I think today composers are not afraid to mix mediums. So how do you see it?
You see, I see myself as a painter. Whenever I want to paint a picture, a story, I have my empty canvas and I'm standing by it, looking on it. But on my one hand, I have the brush, and on the other hand, I have the palette of all colors. So I really have all colors. None of them is missing. So according to the story, I will use several colors and paint the story. In other words, when I studied composition at Music Academy, I studied all techniques. So when I graduated as a professional composer who has all colors. And it's my freedom, or it's my choice to choose the colors according to commission or according to performer, be it children vocal ensemble or be it chamber orchestra for avant-garde crazy contemporary music festival. Yeah, I'm ready to use those colors. I have also written some pieces with electronics, also atonal music. Yeah, I have those colors as well. And when my children, when they hear some examples of my crazy avant-garde music, they say, "Oh, Daddy, that's music for horror movies."
Well, that's the thing. And it's a good vocabulary for a certain emotion. But if you want a different emotion, then maybe you need a different palette. That's interesting you say colors, because your music is very colorful, like in the way that Debussy or jazz is colorful with dissonance as color rather than pain.
Yeah. And also I teach my students at Music Academy. Students, sometimes they tell me, well, I don't like dodecaphony, or I don't like romanticism. That's fine. But at least while you are a student, read about it, understand it, know about it, know the details, know the techniques, what's behind those particular styles. So you are prepared. Because a day might come when, you know, when you have a baby and you want to write a beautiful lullaby for your baby, but you haven't learned the secrets of romanticism. So what kind of lullaby will it be?
Right, right. Well, and plus it's just, I mean, I can't imagine my life without the Mahler symphonies. You know, it adds, I'm not going to write a Mahler symphony. I'm not going to conduct a Mahler symphony, but he's an important composer to me for what he did. And my life would be so much smaller if I didn't know the Mahler 9. First movement of Mahler 9 is my go-to if I just need a cathartic experience. Do you have pieces like that you go to when you're in trouble? I go to Bach as well. Bach and Mahler, that's sort of my go-to guys.
Yeah. You know, my last concert when I was still a singer and I sang with the state choir Latvia for 9 years. So my last concert with that choir was in Munich in Germany with Mahler 8th Symphony.
Ah.
You know, and that was State Choir Latvia, and that was Bavaria Radio Choir, Bavaria Radio Symphony Orchestra, and their fantastic conductor, Maris Jansons, who, by the way, was Latvian.
Oh.
So, and that was my last concert with them. And when the ending of that symphony, the pianissimo moment, choir a cappella, you know, I had tears. I, as a singer, I was zero there. I couldn't sing anything because I was so emotional. And you know, Mahler, his horizon is very wide. His horizon of his imagination, how he saw the world, how he saw the sky, huge horizon, and that's why his music is so. I could say that he was like a bird flying with largest wings in the highest orbits. Yeah.
Your music, a lot of it deals with big horizons, stars, and nature. The natural world is obviously important to you. Does that come from just where you live, or where does that come from?
I think it comes from my childhood, where every summer, actually every weekend, I spent in my grandmother's farm, and she had a river, she had a cow, she had 10 hens, she had 2 pigs, and she had a agriculture land, and so I was involved in all those works. I milked the cow, and I woke up early 5 a.m. in the morning, and yeah, and I swam in the river, and so that nature, I already at that time I really enjoyed the nature. And then years later, when I was a student, I attended a lot of masterclasses, composition masterclasses here in Europe. And by the way, also with 2 American composers, David Lang and Richard Danielpour, but also a lot of European composers. And by the way, Michael Finnissy, Jonathan Harvey John, and they were different teachers, different styles, even new complexity, crazy styles. But there was one thing that united them all. And whenever they showed their own works, I could feel that these works were emotional. I could feel their emotion. I could find their emotion in these scores. Yeah, and I, from those 15 something masterclasses I attended, that was the main thing I took for myself. Yeah. Um, don't lie in your music. Be honest, open your heart, open your soul. If there has to be climax, then I will work the climax to shine. Yeah. So I'm very self-critical, honestly, and I always think also, this particular page I'm working on, is it the best I can do, or is the best still coming in next hour? So yeah, you see, I'm professional composer, but at the same time I also a human being, and I put my sincere emotions in every piece, and I also ask those critical questions. So this trinity is very essential to me.
Absolutely. I mean, that's why the music ends up uh, as good as it is, because you've worked on it. I mean, the Mozarts are few and far between. Most of us have to work pretty hard to reach a high level. So the other thing about your music is it's so easy to sing. Not technically, it's quite complex, but there's always a reason, and it's always worth the effort to get there. But you can tell it's written by a singer. So now here's my question: what voice part are you?
You know, I love how you describe my music. You know, you are like musicologist, I think. Sometimes musicologists write me and they ask me such questions that they have found such details in my scores, and I just wonder, you know, when I composed, I didn't I didn't think about such details what later musicologists find in the scores. um, I'm first tenor.
Yeah, I was hoping you'd say that. I'm a tenor as well, so more a second tenor. But
Yeah.
I have a private little tally going. You know, people come to writing choral music either as keyboard players, which uh, I didn't know that you were, or as singers. And I think the singers just, I don't know. When you actually know what it feels like for the singer, it just, I think that's
Yeah.
helpful.
Yeah, and even my professor, when I studied, my professor of instrumentation, he said to me, if when you compose even for symphony orchestra, if you can hum or if you can just sing yourself second oboe part or first clarinet, third trumpet, if you just can, like, not necessary to sing with a full voice, but just hum, and if it sounds natural to you, then it will sound also natural, you know, the symphony orchestra. So, and I'm still humming. I compose at my piano, but I hum, and lyrics is in front of me, and yeah, that's process how I compose. And even when I was already professional composer, but I still sang with the state choir Latvia. It was my daily job for 9 years. You know, every piece we sang, I analyzed. I analyzed why this page is so fantastic. Why? What's the secret? What's technical? What's behind it? And why another piece is quite boring. You see, and these 9 years with professional state choir, this was also my school where I kept studying.
what a what a dream to sing full time in a choir. I mean, I think when people hear that, they're going to say, "Oh, you know, I should have been born in Latvia."
Oh my goodness, you know, uh, the last 2 years were like a burden to me to sing in that choir, honestly, because I was already receiving commissions more and more. So it was at the end of those 9 years, I woke up early, fresh, ready and inspired, ready to work on my own new work. But now I had to go to the choir. But what we were going to rehearse today, oh, that was Mozart Requiem. Why do we need to rehearse it? We already know it by heart. Because tomorrow comes the guest conductor. We just need to remind it. Oh my goodness, that's boring. That's boring. And yeah, that's the last 2 years for me as a composer was not happy with the choir.
Well, your life was starting to go a different. Then you went to Trinity from there.
Yes, and I was still quite not strong enough to make this decision and to leave the choir. And the economical crisis came, you remember, in 2008,
Yeah.
2009. So the crisis came, and to leave the daily job, that wouldn't be a good idea. So I had to stay with the choir, yeah. But my heart was already in composition. So, but because of the crisis, I stayed with the choir, and then this invitation to go to Trinity. In 2010, I received this invitation to apply to the competition, and I did. But still, the recovery from the crisis was very, very slow. But my wife and I, we prayed God for His guidance, and when Trinity College said yes, they had chosen me to be their composer in residence for 2 years. So I received this invitation as the answer from God. So I said goodbye to the State Choir Latvia, and I accepted the invitation and to go to Cambridge. I didn't know how it will end after 2 years, but I had a feeling I had to jump. I had to jump without knowing where I will land. So, but it was a good jump and very good landing.
Well, Stephen Layton is God, I think, in this story. But beyond that, you followed your heart and you saw what you needed to be doing, and you took a chance, and that's very brave.
Well, that's what I'm thinking about my younger colleagues, my students, how I can be an encouraging person to them, to whisper some suggestions, to give advice, to help them open some doors. Yeah, it's very important to stay with open heart and to be ready to help. Yeah, this is kind of my motto in life at this moment.
And I want to just get your input on something that I think many Americans don't know about, the singing revolution and the Riga, the song festival. And we might end by just discussing the power of music. We read about it, and it's like okay, Orpheus, and it's legend, but this really happened. Can you just tell us about the power of singing in your country?
Yes, this tradition or this idea doesn't belong to us. It was borrowed from Switzerland, South Germany, in 19th century, in 18 something. They had the brotherhood choirs, so men were singing together in churches, maybe in community. And at that time, Latvia was under the Germany. because we were under Germany actually for 700 years. And we had many Germans living in Latvia. And also our first education started from the German pastors. And a pastor in one church, he liked the idea that was happening in Switzerland and Germany. And he established, he invited several singing groups to come together. And the first singing event had 400 people, which was, I think, which was 1869. And then a few years later, in 1873, we had our first song festival. And everyone just loved it. There was not one conductor guiding the choir. There was main conductor, and then on both sides in a distance were two other conductors just helping, you know.
Yeah.
But Latvia as independent country was established only in 1918. You see, even the song festival was before the country was established. So this and feeling people together, singing together, excuse me. So that movement became kind of regular. Was it every 5 years? Was it 8 years? And yeah, we already had our, was it 26th, 27th song festival since that time. And we have open stage out in Riga, in the capital, open stage where can about 14 or 15,000 singers come together and sing. Yeah.
And the story of the singing revolution, you know, how it actually was a force. It helped to create this change. People, that if we broaden that thought, you know, that art and the wanting freedom of expression and these people just spontaneously singing changed the world.
Yes, in 1940, when already the Second World War was started by Germany fighting in Poland and France and Latvia and the other Baltic states, Estonia and Lithuania, we were still free. But in one day, in 1940, Russia occupied our country, and they stayed in our country for almost 50 years. So we were under the Soviet Union for 50 years. We still had our song festival, but of course our certain folk songs or certain songs were forbidden because they reminded us about the freedom. So they were forbidden. When the leadership in Soviet Union started to change because there was this Gorbachev and Reagan in the States, you know, Reagan was very influential and for this democracy to somehow to rise in the Soviet Union. We felt, okay, the Communist Party has become weaker. So we started to speak louder about freedom. We started to sing louder. We started our gatherings, and the main manifestations of the nation happened in this open stage where we had our song festivals. And so many, I don't know, 100,000 people gathered there. And from time to time in 1980s, there were still the police and Soviet army was around the territory, but they didn't shoot, they didn't do anything aggressive, they just were there. But our smart minds, our educated people, they really spoke loudly about our freedom, longing for the freedom. And so day by day, week by week, year by year, our voices become louder and louder. Our songs became louder and wider. And yeah, so this is called singing revolution, because it happened in that place, you know, or manifestations or calls for freedom in this song festival open stage place.
And
Yeah.
still going on today. I told you earlier, I Googled your performance of my song there. Did you write these words? I know we're going to need to finish up here, but who wrote the words?
My song is Rabindranath Tagore,
Well,
Bengalian poet, you know, Bengalian Indian poet.
Okay.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
your choice of poets is great. All the Sarah Teasdale, and you know, that's another thing I look at. When I'm looking, and I look at hundreds of pieces for each concert, and usually I look at the cover and I see the poetry, and I'm afraid I don't even open the music, because it's just not, the words don't, for me, just for me,
Yeah.
it's not what I want.
For example, Sarah Teasdale, so far I have written about 14 songs with her
I
poems.
have all of them.
Oh, how does it come that we still I have to go to your choir one day, you know. You have been performing my music so often, so I have to go. I have to meet you all and say thank you.
It's us that need to say thank you, and maybe we have a commissioned New Works Festival that's been endowed. We just did a big piece of Joby Talbot's The Sheen of Dew on Flowers. Was premiered in London, and we were next. And we have a commission from Will Todd. I don't know, with your English connection, you probably know him. He's written us a piece that we're supposed to be doing this March. We don't know if it will happen. So maybe I'm sure you're booked way out, but maybe we can.
No. I still have gaps
Well,
in my calendar.
we'll get back to that, but I'm very taken with this whole idea of music and what it gives to us and how powerful it is. And these words that you said were so beautiful. I'm just going to read a little bit here. This song of mine will wind its music around you like the fond arms of love. This song of mine will carry your sight into the heart of things, like a faithful star in the dark night over your road. My song will be like a pair of wide wings to your dreams, like the fond arms of love. It will wind its music around you. My song will take you to the verge of the unknown. And then I'll skip. When my voice is silent, my song will live in you. What a great thing we get to do. And you as a composer to bring this music to us that makes the world better. And I know that sounds like hyperbole, it sounds like exaggeration, but I wouldn't do what I do, and I don't think you would do what you do if you didn't think that was true. So on behalf of all of us, thank you so much for your beautiful love of the world that comes through in your music, and for this conversation. And I'll just say, and for doing it in English, because my Latvian is.
But you know, we composers, yes, we write music, but without performers, our music doesn't fly.
We need
So
one
thank
another.
you.
Yeah.
So thank you,
Yeah.
Paul, and your singers. Yeah, and hopefully we meet one day in a concert.
Let's make that happen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, and stay safe, and we'll all hope for a vaccine and happier days soon.
Thank you.
All right.
Goodbye.
Have a good evening.